Hello and welcome to this episode 0 of the Aperitif podcast. This episode is to serve as an introduction into Cameron, his business, a bit of his background and his story for people who maybe don't know that or want to hear further about it. For a very sort of light introduction, my name's Stephen. I am the producer and director of the podcast, and today I've been forced to be on camera. So I will serve as compere and a bit of an interviewer for this particular interview, and you'll probably never see me again. I will be behind the camera for the rest of it. But Cameron, welcome to your own podcast.
Thank you.
So today's episode is, as we said, an episode 0. It's there for us to really kind of introduce you, tell a bit about your background, why the business exists, etc. So give us who you are and what you do right now, and then we'll take it back from there.
Super. Yeah, sure. So yeah, my name's Cameron. Owner of Deux Six Wines, a grower champagne importer based in the UK. And we work with different grower champagne producers from the region of Champagne in France, and we import and distribute them nationwide to mainly on trade, so restaurants, hotels, wine bars, merchants, but also off trade, wine stores, and online retail as well. So yeah, we've had the business now for 4 years, and yeah, we're still going, which is a great sign.
It is.
But, looking forward to sharing some stories and to also sharing our client stories as well, and having a little deep dive into the world of hospitality at the moment in the UK.
Amazing. So you mentioned there 4 years. So take it back for me a little bit. Like, I've known you a while. We're friends outside of this podcast.
Off camera.
Off camera, we're friends. Not just for today. So, and I mentioned to you before we started filming, I'm like, I think you're quite young. And quite young to be in what I would traditionally associate with a much more older, maturer industry. So
yeah, the grades are coming through a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, me and you both. But the business has been going for 4 years.
Yep.
So that means you starting that business is mid-20s. So take us back to kind of that time. Tell me the story of how the business got started.
Yep. So I would have been 25 at the time.
Yeah.
So 29 now, 30 next year. That's haunting me. So yeah, 25 when we came up with the idea for the business. So it was lockdown 2020, and we really wanted to. I say we a lot because the idea and the brainchild is from me and my wife Naomi, and the idea came from having a love and a passion of champagne, which is a story that we'll get into and how that came about. But the launch of the business started purely in COVID, in lockdown, from the in-laws bedroom, as a lot, not the in-laws bedroom,
no,
our bedroom in the
in-laws house,
that would have been weird.
That would have been awkward.
But yeah, in the in-laws house, just an idea during lockdown. Both me and Naomi weren't in work. Naomi's a teacher, so schools were closed. My career was in sport at the time, and sport was closed for the time being. So yeah, it was an idea that all stemmed out of lockdown, really.
Amazing. So yeah, let's go that further bit back, because again, 25, mid-20s, 29, even now, to be involved in such a deep and ingrained way into the hospitality and specifically the champagne industry, is probably quite unique. So where did that passion, where did that interest come from? How did you get there?
Sure. It is it's a different sort of introduction into how I got involved into the champagne industry.
Yeah.
And I say champagne industry, even though it's the wider industry, is the hospitality sector.
Sure.
But the champagne is what we fell in love with, and where our passion sort of comes from. So yeah, it was literally me and Naomi would love a meal out, would love a drink or an evening out somewhere. Naomi would want to have a glass of wine or would want to try something off the wine list that I wouldn't be really adventurous and want to give it a whirl. So Naomi would be struck by the glass sort of offerings, and I'd have a beer, or
Sure.
I might have a gin and tonic at a push or an old fashioned or something. But if we went out for a meal, I'd get a pint, I'd get a bottle of beer, and then we'd get wine. So I was never into wine. I would never actively have a glass of red, white, rosé, sparkling, whatever. And it was literally, I think, probably like 23, 24-ish. And we got a bottle of champagne, and I enjoyed it. And it was literally as simple as that.
Wow.
We opened the bottle over a meal, And it was the first wine really that I looked at and I thought, yeah, I'm into that. I like it. I can palate it. I can stomach it. And B, it was that moment of me and Naomi sharing a bottle over the meal together that created that little sort of connection to the evening, to the meal, to the moment. And literally it all stemmed from us both realising, oh, we'll quite like this together. And it's something that Naomi enjoyed and something that I enjoyed. And literally since that spark, it's something that we then went home and was like, oh, why do I like that and not like other wines? Why am I into champagne? Why did I enjoy that? And then started to really delve into the history, the nuances of champagne as a wine. So, but at this point, it was coming at it from a pure consumer point of view, no knowledge of wine making, no knowledge of the wine industry, just purely because I liked a bottle of champagne. So we go to the supermarket, we try different of the different supermarket bottles, whether it was a cooperative supermarket brand, whether it was a Grand Marque, one of the big houses, and we just started to pick up different things and just to try stuff together and learn what we did like or what we didn't like or what we preferred and just started to research and delve deeper into champagne as a wine first. And it was literally just supermarket wine. From Waitrose to Asda, it was literally what can we pick up, what can we try, on a budget. Like we weren't going out buying Krug and Dom Perignon. It was sort of non-vintage entry level Grand Marque champagnes from Veuve Clicquot to Moët de Chandon, Taittinger, Bollinger, Perrier Jouet, all those types of brands. But it was the non-vintage entry level that you could get for £40 to £50 at a supermarket. And we just started to delve into it, and we just started to taste things and really enjoy that moment of, oh, why do we like that? Oh, that's a little bit different to that one that we had, and just learn more about the wine first. And that's where the sort of passion of drinking it together came from. It was that just one moment of, we shared a bottle over a table, over a meal, and it was the first wine that we could both sort of enjoy together, really. So,
wow, interesting. So you're enjoying bonding over bottles of champagne.
mm-hmm.
How does a business come out of that? Because everyone's got hobbies, everyone's got something that they enjoy. At your age, at the time when the business was made, I don't want to keep harking on about age because I think it's largely irrelevant.
No,
but
right.
just as a kind of number and just as a reference point, everyone's got hobbies, everyone's got stuff that they're passionate about. How does a business crop out of that? So just tell me how you kind of got to that point.
I think for me, a little bit from my own character, I've always been sort of somebody that's, Naomi always takes the mick out of me of, you don't have hobbies because you turn them into something. Yeah. So my career pre-wine was within the football industry and within the sport industry, and that's come from a hobby. But with the wine stuff, with champagne, it was really having a look at the region as a whole and then visiting the region that really made us fall in love with the idea and the place of champagne as a whole. So when we were trying these sort of different bottles at a young age, we had zero knowledge of how to taste wine. We were still drinking it out of flutes. We were still drinking it super, super cold and completely different perspective of how we drink and taste champagne now. So to start the business really was during lockdown, where we were both at home, both not out of work, but our industries were closed, sport and education. Yeah. And I was reading a book called Bursting Bubbles, and basically it's a New Zealand importer who focused on bursting the myth of what champagne is as a region, as a celebratory drink, as a big sort of multi-conglomerate, millions and millions of bottles pumped out a year, very consistent style of wine, marketing driven, brand driven, and flipping it on its head and looking at these smaller artisan sort of grower producers that were in the region that were doing more terroir driven wines, more sustainable wines, and a real sort of different take into what champagne can be. But when I was reading that and I started to look at the markets in the UK and across the world within this sort of grower champagne movement, I looked at the UK and there wasn't really the market was tiny. So the number of imported growers into the UK was tiny. The number of growers that were being purchased was tiny in comparison to the US, Asia, Scandinavia, Australia, Europe, Italy, Spain. And I saw that as a little bit of a niche and an idea to actually say, is there room in the market for an importer to work with some of these smaller, lesser known, unknown names within the UK and bring them to a new audience, which was us as a consumer.
Sure.
So we'd visit Champagne and we'd come back and we'd be frustrated at the lack of sort of innovative champagne lists, or the lack of sort of ideas when it came to bottle stores and trying to pick up a bottle of champagne.
Sure.
We could, because we've been to Champagne, we saw the wide variety of wines over there in the region. But then you come back to the UK and it would be the same.
Same 6 houses.
Same houses on a wine list, or same houses in a supermarket, or same houses in a wine bottle store, or your local merchant. And for us, it was that frustration of having to pay a fortune for them.
Of course.
In restaurants, the markups. So you could get a bottle of Moët & Chandon for £40 to £50 in a supermarket, and go to a restaurant and have to pay plus side of £100, and it was that frustration of not having a wide range of options for us and me and Naomi as a young consumer to access different styles of champagne. So we looked at it and thought, is there a way that we can sort of change and redefine what champagne can be in the UK by bringing in unique and different styles of champagne that were still approachable on a price point, on a value level, but also in terms of the places that you could drink those wines. Yeah. You didn't necessarily have to be in a 3 Michelin star restaurant, even though we supply to Michelin star restaurants now, 4 years down the line. But we wanted it to be approachable for consumers just like me and Naomi as well.
Amazing. So lockdown, obviously your background in sport you alluded to before. You guys are off, sat at home.
Yeah. Let's set up a champagne business.
Yes, sounds great. Great shout. So talk me through that early formation and kind of what the idea was, how you kind of got it to a point.
Sure. So, like I said, always been sort of entrepreneurial in terms of spirit with my career pre-launching the business, and always wanted to have sort of my own business that I was passionate about and could work on and grow and sort of be fully immersed in. So literally I woke up one morning and said, you know what, I'm going to give it a whirl. I'm going to literally send some emails to some of the producers that we've heard of in Champagne, some of these smaller producers, but B, just start researching. Yeah. Who are these growers? Where are they based? Are they already working in the UK? Are they not? And literally devised this brand and this idea. It was just an idea at the time. It was a concept of Deux Six Wines. Yeah. So we set up an Instagram page, which is just the first thing you do in this day and age. Sure. Is set up your socials page, and we just started to post on there. And then I started to send emails, just literally tell our story of who me and Naomi were, what our idea was, how we fell in love with champagne, why we wanted to start this business of working with smaller artisan champagne growers and producers to bring their wines into the UK market.
Cool. Just let's hit a pause button there. Okay. There's one bit that we've missed, which is really important, which I think deeper ties you and your guys' relationships to the Champagne region. So you mentioned Deux Six, so there's obviously a really important to the business story around that. So just talk to me about that first visit to Champagne and kind of what happened and how that went.
Yeah, sure. So pre-COVID, so pre-business idea now.
So 2019.
2019 was our first visit. Yeah. So by this time we'd been enjoying Champagne for a couple of years, still sort of just tasting things, still drinking out of flute, still drinking it ice cold, not learned anything in terms of the real detail and intricacies of Champagne as a wine. And it was my mum and dad. They said, "Oh, why don't you go and visit?" type thing. You can go and visit Champagne as a place, as a region. You can go on these wine tours. You can visit the city, this, that, and the other. And I looked at it and I thought, that sounds right up my street. Sounds like a great little trip for me and Naomi. We'd always obviously go on little city breaks and this, that, and the other. It was just at the time it was just another bit of a city break, weekend away type thing. And I booked a last minute sort of trip to Champagne with no idea of what do you do over there,
Sure.
where is it, how do you get about, what's the vibe like, what's accommodation like, what's literally no idea. So it was just researching articles, articles from people that we know work with and stuff like that, which is
crazy.
which is really cool. Of suggestions on what houses to visit, what tours to go on, what's the best places to go and stay, and how do you navigate your way around Champagne as a place. So I booked a last minute trip, and because we'd had this moment over the last few years of really connecting through Champagne as a wine, I basically made the decision that was going to be the place that I would ask Naomi to marry me. So a few things had happened family-wise. We had our sort of first big family wedding, which made me like... So we were young at the time. Would have been 24 and 22.
Yeah.
So like super, super young. But we'd been together for... Gosh, better get this right. 5 years maybe at this point. So,
Sure.
Yeah, sort of childhood sweethearts, even though it was late teens when we got together.
Yeah.
But we'd known each other through school and all that sort of thing. So even though we were young, we didn't feel young in our relationship and young as people and as a couple anyway. So we had a big family wedding. My cousin got married, but unfortunately we lost my grandma, my dad's mum, before that wedding. And it made me realise that actually life is too short. If you know, type thing. If you want something to happen, make it happen. Doesn't matter. Age is just a number. So because of those things, that's not the reason I asked Naomi to marry me.
No.
Just because
She's really nice as well.
Yeah, just because I lost my grandma. No, it was that epiphany of actually, what we're waiting for type thing.
Yeah. No, I get that.
And we spoke about getting engaged. We spoke about this, that, and the other. And there's a couple of trips that we went on, and I didn't make it happen. And it was like, am I going to do it? Am I not? Type thing.
Sure.
And then, Champagne and everything that was going on at the time felt like the right place and the right time to do it. So I planned that in the background. Didn't tell anybody. The only person I told was Dad, Chris. So I didn't tell my mum and dad. Didn't tell my sister. Didn't tell anybody. So that was a nightmare in itself, trying to plan a trip to this, foreign place in terms of out in the country. It's not a big city.
It's not metropolitan.
You're not going to Paris. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
I'm not proposing under the Eiffel Tower.
Yeah.
It's not something it was a bit different. So planned this last minute trip. Bought the ring, got everything set up, and we headed over there. And we literally touched down in Rheims in the city in Champagne, and just instantly fell in love with the place. I know it sounds cliche, but it was literally like falling in love with a city, a culture, an environment, the people.
Yeah.
Obviously the wine on tap.
The atmosphere in those places.
The atmosphere, and even now I'm very fortunate to visit 4 or 5 times a year with the business. Every time we go, we fall in love with it even more.
Yeah.
And it is just an amazing place. So circling back to the visit. So we landed in Champagne. We spent 3 days there before the proposal. So we visited some of the big houses. We did all your, what I would now say, touristy traps type things. So we had a photo with Dom Perignon statue. We go visit Moet. You do all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And we were staying at La Briqueterie, which is a hotel in a little village called Vinay, near Epinay, and that was where I wanted to ask the question. Really, really nice hotel, Michelin star restaurant, and we dined there in the evening. And I'd organised it with the staff and everybody to play one of our songs, bit of Boys to Men.
Oh,
Bit
lovely.
of Boys to Men came on the terrace.
Brilliant.
And that was where I was planning to ask Naomi to marry me. So after the meal, we went out to the terrace. We could oversee the vineyards. The sun was setting. The birds were tweeting. The music came on from under the table. And that's where I asked Naomi to marry me in Champagne on the 2nd of June, which is where the name Deux Six comes from. So 2-6 in French. So actually in French it should be Deux Six.
Yeah.
But that doesn't sound
as sexy.
It probably sounds sexy, but it sounds a little bit like deceased.
Fair. Yeah, good.
Yeah. So
Very
everybody
good
has their own
point.
interpretation of how they say the name, which
Yeah.
is pretty cool in its own. Say it how you want.
Yeah, absolutely.
Some people it's called Duck Six, and it's just like it's not quite.
Not quite.
So yeah, so in terms of the name and the idea and the brand, so now going back to lockdown,
Yeah.
that was the name of the business straight away.
Yeah.
From my point of view,
Yeah.
it's like that's our moment, that's our connection to the region, to the wine.
But also, like, your whole lives now are intrinsically linked to that point in time and that place,
exactly.
which I think is really important. Like, if you didn't run a wine business, you would probably be back there.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. So we've gone from the link was the wine itself
Sure.
and the bottle and the moment of us drinking and tasting a bottle together. Now that had flipped to the place.
Yeah.
And the environment and the region and the culture. So, yeah, 2020, that was the name of the business straight away. So we told that story to our producers. We told that story to, well, not, they weren't our producers, but potential,
Potential clients.
Yeah, potential suppliers.
Yeah.
And we built this little bit of a brand of who we are and
Yeah.
our connection and our story, really.
Perfect.
And that's how the business all started during lockdown.
So then, sorry, again, to take a backward step, because I think some people wouldn't kind of consider the route that you took of, right, I'm going to start making inroads, I'm going to start speaking to people. So where does that come from? So obviously I know a bit about your background and your background in sport, but, you know, you just being very much on the on the front foot, like just going out, networking, creating sort of relationships. Where does that come from? Because you're pretty strong at that.
Yeah, I mean, to flip it really back and go sort of really raw all the way back to early days of my life, really. So when I was 9 years old, I was on a school skiing trip and I had quite a near fatal accident in Italy. So, I mean, I don't tell this story a lot anymore, so it's a bit of sort of, going back in time. But I fell 40 foot out of a ski lift. So I fell 40 foot out of a chairlift straight onto compacted ice as a 9-year-old not on my own, but away from my parents on a school trip.
Yeah.
Thankfully I landed on my feet, not my head.
Yeah.
So I broke both legs in multiple places, dislocated both ankles, broke my left arm. Did have severe cuts and bruises to my head, but because I landed on my feet first, I've then toppled over to my left-hand side, which is why I broke my left arm, not my right arm. Yeah. And then luckily I had my helmet on, and then banged my head into sort of onto the piste, onto the compacted ice. So as a 9-year-old lad, active, sporty, sport-driven, every sport under the sun I played, basketball, cricket, karate, football, everything. I then found myself in a wheelchair. Yeah. So as a 9-year-old kid, I went from being active every day of the week, had this injury whilst being active, even though I wasn't technically skiing. I'd had this freak accident falling out of a chairlift. I'd gone from, to being an active, young, energetic kid to being stuck in a wheelchair. So we flew back from Italy, and Mum and Dad came over straight away, and we flew back home to the hospital in Wigan, and started my road to recovery, basically. Yeah. And had to learn how. Fortunately, I didn't damage any growth plates, so a recovery was possible. And it was a case of learning how to walk again. So during that moment of rehabilitation and physiotherapy, there was a moment, again, a little spark in me that just said, I looked at other people that was doing rehab and physio within the children's unit at the time, and bearing in mind I'm only 9 here, but I missed my sport. Yeah. So in a wheelchair, I remember saying to my mum, I asked my mum, how do blind people play football? That was the question that I asked, and it was the physio Jimmy replied. He said, oh well, they have sort of like a bell and a ball, and they can listen to where the ball is moving, and that's sort of how they play, type thing. Because all I was thinking about was, how do I play football again? Yeah. I need to learn how to walk, but realistically, I just want to play football. Yeah. I just want to play sport. And I started just asking these questions about, how do people with disabilities or people that have had accidents, how do they still enjoy sport? And obviously started to learn about the Paralympics and this side of things. And it became apparent pretty quickly that I was going to recover, which was great. Yeah. So what I wanted to do was to basically try and help young people that maybe not as fortunate as myself, that had either A, been born with disabilities, or B, had an accident that they couldn't recover from,
Sure.
to enjoy sport. Because I spent 6 months in a wheelchair and I couldn't play sport. And it was a nightmare, because sport was my life. That's all I did. So when I learned how to walk again, I said to my parents, I said I want to try and raise money for young people within our local community of Wigan to be able to play sport, to be able to have access to equipment, to be able to have access to projects or coaching or whatever it might be, so they can play sport, unlike I wasn't able to during this time of my life. So literally, I learned how to walk again, and we organised a sponsored walk to commemorate the moment and the fact, and this idea that I had to fundraise some money. And we organised a massive sponsored walk around the local athletics track, raised over 5.5k for the local disability sports forum, and handed over this cheque to this charity, and saw where this money firsthand went to impacting local communities and local people with disabilities to play sport. As a 9-10-year-old, I looked at it and thought, wow, that's incredible, that people can come together, people can do something for others and create a positive impact in society. And that was all through my own idea of saying, I want to fundraise, I want to do something, I want to buy some equipment, I want to buy a bell and a ball for people, for blind people in our community to play football. And that was all from having this potentially near fatal accident, that real negative in my life, and trying to just flip it into a positive straight away. And because of that, journey that I then spent from a nine-year-old kid learning how to walk again and getting involved in all sorts of fundraising and voluntary work and charitable work in my local community to communities abroad, was something that I spent so much time involved in as a young person. It sort of really sort of carved a path into me being, because doing a fundraiser as a 9-year-old is that entrepreneurial spirit, isn't it? Even though it's not commercial, it's for a charity, it's still the same concept. So I've taken that all the way through my life, I think, whether it's for a charity, whether it's for my own career, whether it's in my own full-time career, my own jobs, and now obviously to a business mindset. The same principles align of having an idea and making it happen. Yeah, that's the thing. It's having an idea, trusting it, wanting to do it, wanting to make it happen, onboarding people to help me make it happen, and then just going for it, really. So
I think one of the skills that I think definitely is apparent from my experience of working with you and being a friend of yours is you're a great networker of people. Like, you speak to people and you can walk into a room of anyone really and kind of get on with people, have a conversation, engage people. And I imagine that comes from the fact that at a young age, I know you can talk about the Olympic stuff, you can talk about speaking on stage a little bit, maybe talk about those bits. I think those experiences have really formed your ability to kind of really be able to communicate well.
I think so, mate. I think from such a young age, I was getting involved in things that, sort of a normal teenager probably wouldn't be exposed to, really, which was incredibly fortunate for me as a person. So from that first initial fundraiser, I just got the bug of wanting to help people, wanting to get involved and run projects and make stuff happen, and carried on fundraising every year, different things, different ideas, different charities, and it got to a position where I'd raised over £100,000 in total for various charities as a 16-year-old lad, and was starting to get these opportunities to speak to audiences, to be at award nights, and was very fortunate to be recognised for some of the achievements that I'd had, that I'd sort of achieved as a fundraiser, really, because that's what I was doing. I was fundraising, I was volunteering, I was working with charitable organisations, and I'm very fortunate to be given opportunities to speak to people, to be in rooms with adults, really, as a young age. So those skills that I learnt from speaking with people, be it celebrities, be it CEOs, be it managing directors of organisations and convincing them to part with their cash for charities and for fundraising and all sorts of things, or to donate prizes, or to have a seat have a table at a black tie event that might be organised, and all that sort of thing. It's all it's all skills that I learned at such a young age that I've managed to take with me throughout the rest of my career and setting up a business. But that's all been driven through sport, and all been driven through the opportunities that sport have given me. And go back to 2012. 2012 was a massive sort of personal year for me, in terms of I got selected to be an ambassador for Coca-Cola in the London 2012 Olympic Games, and I think there was 8 of us across different regions of the UK, and they'd selected young people that had been involved in sport, that had been involved in community, society, charity, voluntary work, whatever it might be, to be an ambassador for the Olympic torch relay. And that as a role was being sort of chauffeured across the country, one day I'd be in a lecture in college, and next minute I'd be in the Tower of London doing a press conference with Lord Seb Coe, and it was just like this whirlwind of 12 months of I used to joke about it, of like being like a Z-list celebrity. It was weird, because you had this treatment of dining and in the Ritz, to getting front row theatre tickets, to doing these sort of press conferences and TV and radio interviews with celebrities. And I remember being sat in a studio not much bigger than this with like Justin Bieber doing a private set for that was through like Radio 1, and just got involved in these crazy surreal moments as a 16, 17-year-old that exposed me to so many different walks of life and so many different industries and people. And it became a little bit of a blur, if anything.
Yeah.
So 2012, I was very fortunate to have the honour to carry the Olympic torch, and that opened up so many avenues in terms of me as a person, as a speaker, as a fundraiser, to increase my fundraising efforts, to speak to people, to audiences, and to make things happen and to run projects. I launched my own charity at 18, which was funding young athletes with disabilities to fund their sort of careers within professional sport. And just I was exposed to all these different environments as a young lad that have really sort of shaped probably who I am now as a business owner,
100%.
and as a person,
in
terms of just making things happen and just getting involved with people and like I said, networking and speaking to people and getting people to believe in your cause, or to believe in my ideas and things, and take that all the way through to my career and business now, really. So
100%.
That's pretty raw, that I don't tell that story really anymore.
No, I think it's important, because I think some of the things that have been achieved so far, and that, obviously the ambitious plans that you've got for the business going forward, I think without getting that context of kind of where that drive, determination, ability to network, ability to have conversations with people, the ability to get someone bought into a vision, I think they almost seem a little bit unbelievable if you don't understand that background. I think that's where I think it's really important. Like, fast forwarding back now to sort of that 2019, 2020 era of starting the business, you going out and networking with these growers and these producers now. So talk to me about that, kind of where we are at that point.
Definitely. And I'm in a stage in my life now, 2020, where I'd had a decent career so far as a young guy within the sport industry. And I got to a little bit of a ceiling with my own personal career. So I'd always wanted to not be in control, but have something I could just run with myself. I always wanted to help other people. And I got to a position at 25, 26, and I thought that's through maybe having my own business, is to help other people, to whether that's employees, whether it's staff, whether it's suppliers, whether it's other people's businesses, whether it's what my business might do for other people. So I use those skill sets that I've probably not realised I gained through my experience in life and other things. To just contact people, just speak to people, just go for it. Just there's no harm in in asking a question and sending an email or picking up the phone and literally, we set up the Instagram page, and that was, sort of pre-algorithms these days, where it's a lot difficult now to get traction on stuff. And we just got traction straight away on our posts and on our things, and started to get engagement with it. And my initial idea was to contact grower champagne producers and showcase our story, who we are, what we're trying to do, our idea, and ask them would they be interested in being imported into the UK. Yeah. So it was literally a cold email to a French email address directed to this producer to say, this is who we are, this is what we do, we've had a look at what you guys do. And this was, we'd look at their Instagram page, we'd look at the website and go, quite like that, quite like their story, quite like the branding, quite like their idea, blah, 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 blah. And literally sent a cold email out to tens and tens of producers and said, this is our idea. Because we didn't know, A, is it a good idea? Sure. B, are these farmers and are these sort of artisans really interested in the English market? Are they interested in speaking to a business that's not even a business? It's just an idea, it's just a concept. And then every morning I'd wake up and I'd open my laptop at like 5 a.m, dead excited, what's going on, what's happened? And I'd just start to get these trickles of emails and replies back from these French champagne makers, and I'd be like, oh, people are interested. And it was that, is trust the right word? I don't know. Is it?
I think it's belief.
Belief, probably belief of an idea, of a concept, that these producers would then get back to us and say, yeah, we like the idea, let's have a conversation type thing. And that's where the idea then started to become a little bit more serious in terms of these people wanted to export to the UK, they wanted to tap into the UK market, but they also probably wanted to work with somebody that had the same beliefs and same philosophy of wanting to work with small businesses, farmers, growers, not wanting to necessarily work with the bigger producers, and to offer them a route into market that was pretty unique. So we started to get these responses back via email. We started to have these conversations with these with Google Translate, really. And then people started to send us bottles. Simple as that.
Yeah.
So we want to build a portfolio. We want to build a portfolio of wines that we can look to sell in the UK. And these producers backed our idea, had the belief, and started to send us samples. This was pre-Brexit. It was a bit easier to send them in 2020, and literally would just UPS boxes to us during lockdown, and every day we had a different delivery for like a couple of weeks. Yeah. These different producers sending bottles to us for us to taste, for us to get an idea of who they were, of what types of champagne we liked and we enjoyed. And bear in mind, this is a couple of years into us discovering champagne.
Sure.
So we moved on from drinking from flutes now, but we didn't know really how to taste wine and how to decipher what was a good wine and what wasn't. It was purely based on what we enjoyed.
Yeah. Which
was, I think, a real great thing for us, because we had no preconceptions of the market.
Sure.
What does the hospitality, or what does the UK market want to buy in terms of price point, in terms of branding, in terms of quality, in terms of region, in terms of great variety, all these different facets that go into a wine. We had no preconceptions. We had no idea. We literally had no idea.
And it's all down to the quality and the taste. And
it was all down to what me and Naomi liked. Yeah. Simple as that.
Great,
and I still say it today, Naomi's palate's miles better than mine.
Sure.
And I still say it to this day, it's got to pass the Naomi test before it lands in our portfolio.
Yeah.
And we're talking 4 years down the line now where we know what we're doing.
Yeah, of course.
But going back to that sort of moment in lockdown, it was literally hundreds of wines sent to us, and we tried to categorise them the best we could.
Yep.
So the idea was to try and have a wide range of different styles.
Yep.
Within the portfolio, irrelevant of producers, irrelevant of region within Champagne. So we blind tasted stuff. So we segmented things. So we'd have like a Blanc de Noir, we'd have a Blanc de Blanc tasting, or we'd have a vintage tasting, or we'd have a blend, non-vintage entry level blend tasting, or we'd have we have a region tasting, so we did a Montagne de Rams and Côte de Blanc and Côte de Bar, and so we tried to section out those wines that were sent to us the best way that we could into sort of groups of 3, 4, 5 bottles, and then we would blind taste them. But bearing in mind, we had no idea how to taste wine.
Yeah.
So, and this is gospel, God's honest truth. We didn't even know how to spit.
Yeah.
So we were drinking these wines. I would get smashed every night because we didn't know how to do it. So literally during COVID, during lockdown, Naomi started to actually slowly get back into work now. But she was teaching online and things like that and stuff. So every evening, I'd be like, "We got 5 bottles here to drink," but we were literally drinking them because we didn't know how to taste.
Yeah.
So now the hundreds of wines that we got sent, we'd taste them in a day.
Yeah, of course.
Do you know what I mean? But it took us like 3 weeks because we were literally drinking 3, 4, 5 bottles of wine every night. Obviously, we wouldn't necessarily drink the full bottles.
No.
But you know what I mean?
Still, yeah.
And it was just like this bizarre couple of weeks where we were tasting all these incredible champagnes, but we didn't really know what we were doing.
Sure.
So, and there was stuff that we tasted that we didn't like, or we didn't enjoy, or we didn't appreciate at the time because our palates were so untrained, if that's even a thing.
Yep.
It was really just tasting what we liked, and then we'd reveal the bottles, and then we'd look at the producer, the story, the labelling, the price.
Yeah.
So it was wine. It was all the main thing, and it's always been my philosophy, my idea is it's wine first.
Yeah.
So every decision we make within the business and with a producer on how we sell the wines is wine first. So it's not driven by price. It's not driven by branding. It's not driven by story. It's how good is the wine in the bottle. Obviously, that's evolved a lot in the last 4 years. So we literally, built this portfolio out of scratch, and I think we had like 14 producers.
Yeah.
We had like 60 different wines just listed in it. I just created a book on Canva, like as you do.
Yeah.
And we just had this list of wines that we had out of nowhere that we tasted and we liked. And at this time, we liked a bit of everything, really.
Sure.
It was very difficult for us to decipher, what was good, what was bad, what we liked, what we didn't like. And, created this sort of portfolio out of nothing. With the brand of Deux Six Wines and this idea and this identity of and this concept of what we wanted to do in the UK, that's where it all sort of was born, really. And then work happened. We went back to work.
Yeah. So the first idea for that business was very different to what it is now. So talk to us about that first kind of Deux Six venture.
Yeah. So literally we had no startup capital, so we bootstrapped it all ourselves.
Sure.
Bearing in mind in this moment as well, I was sort of in between jobs as well during lockdown, which was not great timing. Naomi was on furlough, as all school teachers were, type thing.
Yeah.
But teaching online, or what, I can't remember exactly how it was, but so we literally bootstrapped it ourselves, and so we weren't buying. We didn't have like 100k cash just to bring a truck full of wine over and just try and sell it. It was literally speaking to these producers and saying, we may or may not have something here. We may or may not have a business. We may or may not buy wine off you. But can we put you in this brochure that we start to use to advertise to people that may buy wine?
Yeah.
And like I said, it was pre-Brexit.
Yeah.
So I literally, if I wanted a case of 6 bottles of wine, I could speak to a grower and it'd be on my doorstep within a week.
Yeah.
Different world to now post-Brexit. But so the first idea was we wanted to do like an online bottle store.
Yeah.
So we wanted these wines to be accessible. We wanted to give people a different experience. We wanted to give people the experience that we've had in Champagne, tasting these different wines, tasting these smaller producers, visiting these growers, and learning this different style of champagne from the big boys, from the Grand Marques. So the idea was, online bottle store. I'd had a bit of success with sort of online marketing and social media marketing and PPC stuff and Facebook ads and all that sort of thing. So I thought it was just going to be dead easy. I thought I'll set up an online store. I'll build a little bit of a launch. I'll do a pre-launch. I'll get a waiting list going. I'll do all the PPC stuff, and we'll sell some wine. Simple as that. Make it look great and see what people think. So the first idea, because again, we didn't back our judgment. So we tasted these wines and we selected wines that we liked, but we didn't know if what we liked other people would like.
Sure.
We didn't know if actual wine drinkers that do this stuff and have it as a proper hobby and a real hobby would like the stuff that we like. So, so we were nervous about what wine we chose and if people would like it. So, and we actually tried to do sort of like tasting packs to potential customers to get them to make the decisions for us.
Get it.
So we would send the idea was we'd have a rosé pack. So we'd send you 3 different rosés, and the one that got the best feedback we would list type thing. And we did it with a Blanc de Blanc, we did it with a vintage, we did it with a blend, we did it with a Blanc de Noir. And when we had these little tasting packs that we were going to sell, so we're trying to sell the idea of having a tasting pack of 3 unknown bottles of wine that fit this category, and you can be involved as sort of like a founder, sort of member of our business and help shape this portfolio. And what
you're almost kind of crowdsourcing the success.
A little bit, yeah. That was the idea. So we did this big launch phase across socials and built it up to these tasting packs. Get involved, help us decide what we list and what goes on our website type thing. And we launched it, and no one bought. Right. So yeah, we launched it and not a peep. I think I sold a couple of cases to friends and family. Yeah. But no real sales, if you get me. No sales to a brand new customer that had been acquired through our marketing efforts or whatever. So it was like, oh, crap. Yeah. Like, what do we do now? That idea hasn't worked. People aren't interested. People don't want to buy these styles of wine. People don't want to buy an unknown case of wine or whatever it might be. And at this stage, we were back in work. Yeah. So the idea a little bit was, it became a little bit more of just an Instagram page. Yeah. Because the initial business idea didn't take off straight away. Sure. So we're still passionate about it. Still had this great idea. Still wanted to make something work. But because, Naomi's a primary school teacher. So people can take the mick out of teaching as much as they want. It's an intense job, man. God, yeah. 100%. Like, I say to her, like, you're just acting all day, aren't you? You're just talking all day. You're on your feet all day. So she had a really intense job. I was working a real intense job at the time as a national account manager for the EFL commercial program. So managing 72 stadiums, 4 competitions, numerous 7-figure brand deals, and during lockdown. And it was the company that I was working for, which was a signage and branding agency. It was the first time that they'd got this account. So it was like the first year of them running this account. And it was the first time that EFL and all these partners had run this project during lockdown and red zones and this, that, and the other. So it was such an intense job. So we're both working after being off work. And this idea was just, didn't sort of get left to the wayside, but it was just sort of bubbling away, pardon the pun, in the background. So the online store idea didn't work. Sure. But we kept in touch with our producers. We kept posting on socials, and we kept this sort of idea burning away. And out of nowhere, I say out of nowhere, but through Instagram, got a DM, got a direct message off a company that had like a online membership scheme, like a wine membership scheme, and they'd been following us. They liked our ethos, they liked our idea, they liked our philosophy. It fit their vibe in terms of sending pretty unknown bottles of wine out to their members, with a sustainable focus and a small production focus. And they got in touch and said, "We'd love to work together. Would you be interested in sending something out to our members?" So I was like, yeah, of course we will, like 100%. How many bottles would you be interested in? And she said, "Oh, well, we've got 60 members." So I was like, oh, that's different. So we've been sort of slaving away for 3 months trying to sell a bottle. Yeah, 1s and 2s. And couldn't do it. Yeah. To actually getting this inquiry where she wanted to buy, 10 cases, 60 bottles. So I was like, yeah, of course we can. Yeah. So then it was a case of, oh shit, how are we going to make it happen?
Where do you get these 60 from?
How are we going to do it?
Yeah, of course.
So we had this massive list of wines. It was a case of sending it to her. These are the prices. But again, we didn't know what we were doing price-wise.
Yeah, of course.
So this is how it works. And this was a time where we didn't hold any wine in the UK. We didn't have a warehouse. We didn't have any stock. We didn't have any wine over here. So it was a case of speaking to which producers we thought could fulfill that order.
Sure.
Which producers we would want to fulfill that order as well, to create a relationship.
Yeah, fit the bill of what they'd want as well.
Yeah, and to show maybe show a certain producer that, hey, we're doing something now.
Yeah.
Like, we've got an order here type thing.
Yeah.
And then also offer the client the option of which sort of wine they would be interested in.
Yeah.
So she chose a producer and a wine, and I spoke to the producer and said, yeah, can we get 10 cases sent to us? And at this time, it was, we via UPS, 10 boxes turned up on the in-laws' front door, and we then shipped them to this membership club. They were based up in Scotland. We shipped them bottles to her, and she sent them out to the membership scheme.
Amazing.
And paid us. It was like, what? I don't think we made much margin at the time, but it wasn't a case of that. It was a case of, oh, there's a concept here. There's an idea.
And there's 60 people now.
There's
are
60
also
people now that are gonna.
Yeah.
So it was that light bulb moment of actually people like the idea.
Yeah.
But it's the market. It's finding the market. It's finding the network. It's finding the people that already A, are aware of these things, or B, might be interested in these things. So that was the light bulb moment to say, we need to sell direct to people's existing markets. We need to sell direct to the trade.
Yeah.
So if we're to be an importer, it's not necessarily to sell it direct to people ourselves, because we've no network. We don't know any wine drinkers. We don't know
your
anybody
socials
within
have
the
done
industry.
well, but you're not.
Yeah, socials have picked up, but
You're not getting that deep.
yeah, it's not. Yeah, exactly. It's not speaking to necessarily the right people for enough time and to get them to convert to a sale.
Yeah.
So, and we're talking like 1,000 followers, maybe. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not. We're not talking big numbers. So we made that first sale, and it was like, great, here we go. So it was then the focus shifted very quickly. To use a buzzword, we pivoted.
Nice.
You like that? Sound about that one. But so we changed the idea and the direction of the business to focus to sell to the trade.
Right.
But we still didn't have a trade market.
Of course.
We didn't know we couldn't even spell sommelier, never mind know one. So it was like, how do we now get our wines to these people?
Yeah.
So I was working from home, and
So we're still in lockdown at this point, aren't we?
Yeah, this is still in lockdown.
Hospitality industry still locked down. Naomi's kind of back to work. But
Naomi's back to work, but sport was still shut down. Hospitality was still shut down, and I just had this idea of running a trade show.
So some context to that is obviously being in your industry that you've been in sport. You'd been to trade shows. You kind of saw that type of stuff.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, exhibitions, trade shows,
exactly.
supplier shows, stuff. A little bit, yeah. But then I'd also started to see what was happening within the hospitality and wine industry as well through socials, even though I had no direct connection to it.
Yeah.
Didn't know anybody within the industry.
Sure.
It was a case of, right, we looked, I think hospitality had been given a date to reopen.
Right.
So with this new idea of selling to the trade, restaurants probably being our biggest potential client, it was, we need to do something before hospitality reopens.
Sure.
So we're talking, I think it was possibly 5 to 6 weeks pre-hospitality opening.
Right.
That we got the date, that Boris gave us a date. That is rolling back there.
Yeah, it is. God, I've had PTSD
Memories that in
from
it,
that name.
flipping heck.
Jesus.
We got a date, and it was like, I think it's about 5 to 6 weeks. Hospitality can reopen slowly. You can have a pork pie with your Scotch egg with your pint type thing, and you can sit in a group of 6. All that sort of crazy stuff. What happened?
Yeah.
So it was literally a case of No, I remember Naomi coming home from work one day because schools had reopened, and I said, right, we're going to run a trade show. She's going, what? So we're going to run this online trade show and we're going to open it up to the wine industry, wine buyers, sommeliers, restaurants, this, that, and the other. And she was just looking at me like, what are you going on about? Like, it's another crazy idea. But she listened and she's like, okay, I get it. But by this time, when I say she come on and had this idea, I'd planned it within the day that she was at work. So I had the concept, I had the dates, I had the posters made, I had the branding, I had the name, I had everything. They had this idea already written up. So it was a case of saying to Naomi, it's not just an idea, we're going to do it.
Yeah.
It was, it's happening. This is, I'm going to go for it. So this online trade show idea was basically, I thought, how can I bring people together from this wine industry that I have no knowledge of and no networking before they go back to work?
Sure. Yeah, the
can't do
concept
it
sounds,
physically. Yeah, can't do it
Concept's a good
physically.
concept.
Can't get people together. So I was like, right, so the idea was we're going to send people bottles of champagne to their home, office, or whatever it was, wherever they were. And we're going to give them the opportunity to taste some of our wines that were in this portfolio.
Yeah. And this is all trade at this point now.
This is direct to
going
trade.
direct to
Yeah.
trade now.
So I literally just jumped on LinkedIn and was like, head sommeliers, wine buyers, restaurants, and just start. Well, the way I started it was an oversubscribed model because I didn't have a network, so I didn't just want to say, do you want to be a part of this, because no one would be interested. So I needed to make it exclusive. I needed to make it of interest to these people that were probably getting loads of sales pitches every day. So an oversubscribed model in terms of, I said, right, we've got 20 exclusive free places onto this incredible event where you can get 3 bottles of wine. We're going to run masterclasses with winemakers and people within the trade in the evening. It's a limited chance to get involved, set strict deadlines and timelines to it. Really easy access to entry. So literally Google form, send us your details, we'll put you on the waiting list, we'll contact you type thing.
Perfect. And bearing in mind these guys have been sat home for 6 months or so.
Yeah, exactly. And bearing in mind, didn't know anybody.
Yeah.
So and nobody knew who we were.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like we were an established business launching an event or launching a trade show. It was zero network.
Yeah.
So that's how we had to frame it. So we said, right, we're going to do 20 online tastings. So we got a really good online sort of conferencing platform. So it wasn't just like logging onto a Zoom meeting, which everyone was fed up of by that time. So we had a really good online conferencing platform. So what we did was we sent out these invites via LinkedIn, via socials, via emails, just completely cold contacts. And then within a couple of days, we were oversubscribed like instantly. Yeah. We had 40 odd people in the first couple of days apply to be a part of it.
Wow.
I was like, oh shit. But we're talking like Claridge's and the Ritz.
Yeah, really influential people in the space.
Gordon Ramsay's restaurants. So you're just thinking, what?
Yeah.
Like, how has this happened? How are we getting these people filling out this form to want to be a part of our event? So we then opened it up, because we went for this subscribe model of 20. So we opened it up to 30. So we did an extra couple of days. So basically, we confirmed 30 people's places to do these 1-to-1 tastings, 1 hour tasting with me and Naomi, owners of Deux Six Wines. Yeah. And we'll send you 3 bottles. But what we did, again, because we didn't know, and we weren't confident in selecting maybe 3 bottles to send to everybody.
Sure.
We give people a choice. So we built this portfolio of 60 odd wines, and we literally gave 30 individual people the choice
of any of those 60.
Wines. You could pick any 3 in any configuration.
Yeah.
So again, it was another Google form. Select which ones of these you want, and we give people free reign, which for them it must have been great.
Yeah.
But for us, it was a nightmare. A logistical nightmare. Bear in mind, I'm not from logistics. Bear in mind, I don't have any distribution background. It's literally just a concept and an idea. So then we started getting these forms back and started to collate. Right, how many bottles do we need to get from that producer of this wine? How many bottles do we need to get from that producer? And trying to work out how we're going to do it.
Yeah.
And in some instances, it would be like just 2 or 3 bottles from one producer.
Sure.
So then we're contacting these producers. We're saying, right, this is the idea. This is what we've launched.
Yeah, yeah.
Can you help us type thing? So again, that belief, that relationship with these producers. And time was ticking for the event to get these wines over. So again, these producers would send us, and some are better at communicating than others. You're talking French farmers here. Do you know what I mean? You're not. We're not talking, sort of export managers. It's a farmer running the whole business.
Whole gig. Yeah, of course.
So yeah, communication wasn't instant, and we started to bring this wine in and started to package it up. So again, then I spoke to people within the industry, and so I spoke with we got sponsorship for it through from Chef and Sommelier, a wine glassware manufacturer. So they sponsored part of the event, and they sent glassware out with this little case, this little sort of bit of a care package, really.
Yeah.
Nice branded box. You got your glasses. You got your 3 bottles of champagne. You got all your sort of literature and everything. It looked great. You got your little tasting mat. It was brilliant what we created. So yeah, we got some sponsorship, product sponsorship through Chef and Sommelier. We had Bemar, the preservation system in sort of restaurants and hotels and stuff. They got on board with things. They did a masterclass. So we tapped into their markets a little bit, and because we had those as partners, it gave us that sort of. It made us real. It made us,
confidence and credibility.
Yeah,
didn't it?
credibility. Yeah, that we're working with these good brands and big brands, because they wanted to access this market.
Of course.
Do you know what I mean? They wanted to speak to 30 wine buyers from all these amazing places.
Yeah.
So we then had to try and collect these wines, and I literally remember the day of some of these tastings, wines hadn't arrived. I remember my dad literally picking up a box of wine and driving it himself to luckily it was a local restaurant, Moore Hall, which one of the best restaurants in the country. At the time, it was literally the #1 restaurant in the UK, and the head sommelier luckily didn't live. He lived in St Helens, which is 20-25 minutes away from where we were. I remember him literally knocking on his door at like 6 p.m. at night, dropping him this case off. I was like, "That's for your tasting tomorrow, mate." I'm just like, crazy.
Thanks, Dad.
Yeah, thanks, Dad. And we literally muddled our way through getting all these cases to these producers in time.
Yeah.
So we had 4 days of these scheduled 1-hour tastings with all these people. So the way that we did it, family member owns a local pub. Pubs weren't open, so we sat in his sort of function room upstairs, and we kitted it out and we made it look great, and we organised these sort of tastings with these influential people within the wine trade, and we were sat there before we were logging onto these meetings. We're like, how do we do this? Like, what do we talk about? What questions do we ask? So we prepped and we prepped and we prepped. So we literally had like a crib sheet on every single person, every single restaurant or hotel or place, whatever it might be. Like we knew the wine list, we knew what champagne they were selling, we knew what price they were selling it at, we knew where that person'd worked previously, we knew the chef that they were working with, so we literally had a one-pager on every single meeting, because it was, we didn't know, we were coming into this completely cold.
Of course.
So me and Naomi would sit in the pub, and we'd have the Mac on, and these people would log on, and we'd do this tasting, and we'd taste with them.
Yeah.
And we'd go through these three bottles of wine with them, and we'd have an hour and online, and it was like a sort of fake it till you make it a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, but we had this idea, we had this concept, and people loved it.
Yeah.
So remember the first tasting, we were like panicking, like, what we're going to do, how's it going to work? We were so nervous, like, we're sweating, we're like, oh my God. And the first tasting went really well. Yeah. And the second one went well, and the third one went well, and by the time it got to the end of the day, they've all gone really well. Yeah. So then after we'd done the tastings in the day, in the evening we were hosting like masterclasses. So the online platform was great. So it was literally it was an online conference. So people could log in, even if they didn't get a place for a tasting. So even though they didn't get sent a tasting pack and they didn't get wine sent to them, you could still log on to the free masterclasses in the evening. So then what we started, so the first night we did so we had a full itinerary, full calendar. So on Monday we're going to do an intro to Do Six. This is who we are. Then we've got a wine glass masterclass. Then we've got a producer from France doing a masterclass, and we had different themes, different things at each evening. But we had people logging on just to get involved in these masterclasses.
Yeah.
So again, we didn't know if people would even be interested. People would log on. So we sat there in the pub, logging on, and start seeing people pop up. And we had like these online meeting rooms, so you could have like your own little
breakout areas.
Yeah, little breakout areas and stuff, which was great. So people were chatting before we went live on these masterclasses, and people were engaging with it. People were asking questions, and we had loads of people sort of log on to these evening sessions. And it was the first night. I remember it. The first night we'd packed away, we'd gone home, and I remember looking on my phone. We were in bed at like 11:30 at night, and people were still logged on, talking to each other in these different rooms and still engaging, and it was just like, oh, that's amazing. Like we've created this little mini community out of nothing, and then we spent the next 3 days running this event, and was like, wow. That's amazing. Like it was mind blowing how well it went. We couldn't believe it. We were just on this super high.
Of course, yeah.
And people giving us great feedback. We created a network out of nothing.
Yeah.
Because prior to this event, we knew zero.
Yeah.
We knew nobody.
Yeah.
And now we've got 30 wine professionals that we've done a tasting with. We've got around 50 people that have logged onto all these different masterclasses. We'd engaged with professional brands and businesses within the industry. We've got winemakers to do masterclasses and built a relationship with them. We've got a mailing list of probably around 100, 150 people that had registered interest or shown an interest in some way to this event.
Yeah.
So literally overnight after this event, we had a bit of a network. We had a bit of something to base ourselves on. So we were buzzing.
Yeah.
Like we were flying. And as you do then, next step, follow-ups. Hospitality is going to reopen like next week.
Yeah.
Here's our account forms. Here's our price list. Here's our order form.
Wait for the orders to flood in.
This is next step. This is it. Yeah. This is going to happen. We're going to be listed everywhere. We're going to be in the Ritz tomorrow night. We're going to be flying. So we sent all the follow-ups out, and it was like cold turkey.
Oh.
I was like, oh. You've all just told us how amazing these wines are and how great this event was, and thanks so much, and this, that, and the other, and it was like, oh shit, because we spent money and time on this event. Like champagne's not cheap.
No, of course,
not cheap when you're in between jobs and you're trying to bootstrap a business and you're trying to showcase something new to these people and you want to impress them. Like some clients got more than 3 bottles of wine because like we have to impress these guys. Like, and the way we built the Google form didn't quite work as well. So people ended up selecting more than 3 wines, and we didn't have time to like go back and forth and ask which ones they wanted. So we just sent like some people got like 5, 6 bottles of wine.
Blimey.
So it cost us money. And nothing. No responses, no sales, no interest. It felt like. So then hospitality opened, and it was like, shit. So I went back to work. No one was back in full time. And it just sort of was bubbling away in the background and not deflated, but because we still had that buzz about it.
Of course, yeah.
So we built this community. So we knew there was something there.
You're still engaging with these people.
Yeah, still engaging with them, still putting stuff out there and things, and still had this will and passion to want to make it work. But then when you get back immersed into working full time, and that was what was obviously paying our bills and stuff, it was like, it slipped to the wayside a little bit. And then I remember an email came through probably like 3 months maybe after this event, and it was from a guy called Angelo Altabelli, guy that I still know now, working in Italy now, and he was he'd done one of these tastings with us. So he was the head sommelier at the time at Muse by Tom Aikens.
Yeah.
So 1 Michelin star restaurant in the heart of Belgravia. Tom Aikens, well-known chef, done TV work, this, that, and the other. So it was like, oh, we've got an email here, Naomi type thing. And he said, we loved your tasting. We really like your concept. We really like what you're trying to do. We're looking for a new sort of house champagne by the glass. We'd really like to potentially work with you. Could you send us some samples? So I was like, yeah, damn right we can. Like, of course we can.
Yeah.
But bear in mind, we had no wine over here. So
Of
again,
course.
it was like starting afresh again. Do you know
Yeah,
what I mean? So said to Angelo, said, yeah, of course we can. Let us know what you're interested in. Blah, 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 blah. And we'll make it happen, basically. So we sent him some bottles. We got some bottles from them. So it's funny because looking at the way it worked now and obviously how we operate now as a proper business.
Yeah.
We literally we'd email the producers and say, can you send us 1 bottle of this via UPS ASAP?
Yeah.
It's going to this restaurant as a potential sale. And we sent these bottles down to Muse by Tom Aikens and to Angelo, and within a couple of days it was like, yeah, we'll love them all, but we want to go with this. So it's like, right, what happens next?
Yeah.
So he said, because it's funny because we had no idea.
Yeah,
I had no idea how to close a deal with a
Yeah.
restaurant. I had no idea how to sell wine to a restaurant. I had no idea how to distribute wine to a restaurant. So he said, right, we need 18 bottles every 2 weeks, delivered on a Tuesday, pre-10 a.m. So I was like, all right, okay, no problem. I was like, shit, how am I going to do that?
Yeah.
I can't ship them from France every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I can't get them via UPS to my front door and ship them to London. Like, it's going to A, cost a fortune, B, it's a nightmare logistically.
Yeah.
So how do I do it? So it sounds stupid saying this now, but it's this where we're at the time. We had no experience in this line of business. So it was a case of, right, work out how many bottles do we need over the next, try and get him into a bit of an agreement, because we couldn't afford to buy a load of wine and him not then buy it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? We didn't know how it worked. So we got him to sort of commit for like 6 months and say this. And what was great as well was, I think, because people could see we were a new business and believed again in the concept, people understood that we weren't a big player in the game, that
Sure.
we didn't have loads of stock in the UK, that we didn't have loads of capital and loads of funding, and we weren't being financed by somebody else, and it was literally like a startup business. People enjoyed that and appreciated that, and got the idea and the concept with us. So yeah, Angelo said, listen, can you like gentleman's agreement, promise that you're gonna take it for 6 months, which means I can get X amount of wine in, and we'll sell it to you as we go type thing. So it was a case of, we worked out that we needed half a pallet of wine, so half a pallet of champagne, 240 bottles, and it was a case of, we'll sell it over the next 6 months or whatever. So then I had to go to the producer and say, A, have you got 240 bottles? Because these producers are small, they're tiny, they might not have allocation for us and this, that, and the other. Luckily, we said, we could do it, we can ship it to you, blah, blah, blah. Let's make it happen. So I said, but I can't pay you. She's like, what? So I was like, well, yeah, because we don't have $8,000 to just give you to pay for the wine. And so this is the idea. This is the concept. This is who we are. This is our first deal. Our first deal is with a Michelin star restaurant with a pretty well-known chef. Can you back us? Can you trust us? Do you believe in us? Can we look at, obviously, payment terms and this, that, and the other?
Yeah.
Luckily, we built the relationship with the producer that he was like, let's give it a whirl. So we literally got this half a pallet shipped to, again, didn't know anything about import duties, didn't know anything about taxes, didn't know anything about importing, storage, all this sort of stuff. So I got half a pallet of wine shipped to my dad's garage in Wigan. So I literally had this half a pallet of wine just stacked up in every little nook and cranny possible in my dad's garage that we would send via a courier to Belgravia every 2 weeks for a few months. And we made it happen.
Yeah.
The thing was, we made it happen. They didn't need to know that we were storing it in my dad's garage. Do you know what I mean? People listening to this maybe might not want to know or need to know, but that's the truth.
Yeah.
That's how we started a business out of nothing. So, we got this. We got this half a pallet of wine in. We got this house by the glass deal with a Michelin star restaurant.
Yeah.
So we did a nice little PR launch. The guys at Muse were great, and Tom and his team were great with working with us as a new supplier.
Yeah.
And did some socials with us and nice press release and this, that, the other. So we pushed that out, and it was like, oh, these guys have made waves within 6 months of this idea type thing.
Yeah.
And then things started to pick up off the back of that. People from the event, people from the online trade show, people that had seen the Muse stuff and whatever, and just stuff started to trickle in, inbound and outbound.
Yeah.
But all this was happening whilst we were both working full time in intense jobs. My job was it was like 24 hours basically, because I was on call constantly for any potential issues with the projects that I was running. So it was just still this sort of like hobby that had turned into this sort of random business of, at the time, just selling champagne to one client for a few months. And it all sort of grew and expanded and sort of grew organically and snowballed since that first deal, really. So we've now got loads of wine and loads of pallets in my dad's extended garage. Oh gosh, lucky to say that he was cooperative with that, and he helped us out with that. Head picker and packer he was.
There you go. There you go. So before we move on, how does this wine fit in? Because we brought wine in. Yeah.
So I think with the podcast, what we're going to do is obviously we're going to have an aperitif.
Yeah.
We're going to drink wine. We're going to drink champagne. So with this wine, this is a producer, Champagne Salmon. So a lot of people that know me and know our business will know Alex as well. We sort of come a little bit hand in hand now. So Alex is a producer that's one of the OGs. So he was one that I cold emailed in 2020. And Alex was probably a producer that maybe had one of the more intense conversations with from a business point of view.
Sure.
So Champagne Salmon is a good, well-established champagne brand within the region.
Yeah.
They've got a lovely estate. It's on the route to Champagne, the tourist route of driving through, so they get a lot of footfall. Alex's father's it's a third generation. So Alex's father ran the business and made a real success of it. Alex has come in as the next generation, took it to new heights, and they were the only producer that we spoke to at the start, really, that already had a bit of a brand and a bit of an identity, and people sort of knew a little bit.
Sure.
So when we were proposing these wines, I go, oh, Champagne Salmon, I know them, or I've heard of them, or I've tasted them, or whatever it might be. And I think Alex did have had some previous UK market with a previous import, this, that, the other, and sort of thing. So long story short, Alex had a reputation of having a really good business and really good export markets. So people were always saying to us, how are you working with Alex type thing? How are you working with such a brand and such a champagne house that people would envision to be difficult to work with as a new random off the cuff business idea? So the reason why I brought this is to flip back to that blind tasting that we did in 2020 when we didn't have a clue. This was the first bottle that we tasted that was different.
Yeah.
And it was the first bottle that me and Naomi looked at and we went, yeah, we've got something here. We've got an idea. This is different. This is really good. Yeah. But it's a little bit more unique than sort of, everything else we've tried. Yeah. So it's a couple of days into this like mammoth 3-week blind tasting event that we hosted. And it was the first, and I vividly remember opening the bottle and this is a time where I didn't really know how to open a bottle of champagne properly, type thing, and it went everywhere.
Oh,
And it went everywhere in the kitchen, and then we tasted it, and it was the texture, it was the vivacity of the palate, it was how unique and fruit driven it was, and it was just this really unique experience of what this wine, of what champagne could be.
Yeah.
And then when we revealed it, it was this producer that I already have a couple of conversations with, which was great.
Yeah.
Because I'd already built a little bit of rapport with this guy. Labeling was smart, and it was 100% Meunier. So 100% Meunier was, at the time, pretty unique to us.
Sure.
Pretty unique to the market 4 years ago. Meunier as a grape has evolved massively in the last 4 years in terms of our experience of being in the business, of it being well known now and having more Meunier driven or 100% Meunier cuvées. But at the time, it was pretty unique to us. I might even go on account and say it was probably the first 100% Meunier cuvée we ever had.
Yeah.
And it's a bottle, and now a producer and a friend, Alex, that we still work with now 4 years later. Do some great business with him, but some great events, and a great friend, and it's something that probably showcases the evolution of our business from day one through to where we are now. So that's why I brought it along and thought it'd be good for us to taste. So shall we crack
Go
it
ahead,
open?
mate. Yeah. Crack it open.
Watch this.
Don't worry, I'll move it back for you. You're fine. Don't worry.
So a little bit about Champagne Salamon then. So I've obviously said a little bit about his story and his history. So Alex, youngish winemaker. You won't mind me saying that. He's not as young as he thinks he is. But third generation winemaker, based in the village of Chaumezy, so in the Vallée de l'Arve region, so northwest of Champagne. So in this region, you've got a little bit more sort of clayey limestone soils than the traditional sort of chalk of the Côte de Blanc or the Montagne de Reims. So it gives it that different approach on the palate. So Alex as a winemaker, a little bit of a rock star personality.
Yeah.
Like real, I love the guy. He's great. And his wines sort of reflect him.
Yeah.
So he's had to take over a pretty well run family business in Champagne Salamon from his father, who is a big character.
Yep.
He's a big character in terms of his aura. Like he's got this like Eric Cantona aura about him.
Wow.
Doesn't have to say much.
Yeah.
But you can feel his presence, and you can really enjoy his company in terms of just being sat at a table with him. So he's got this big presence. So with Alex, he's overtook his family vineyard and his family winery with sort of this still overbearing sort of background from his father.
Yeah.
So to change things and to adapt things within his winery has probably taken longer than maybe other people in our portfolio has, because his father's made such a good business and he's got such a good brand. To convince his father to make different wines, or to allow him to make different wines, allow Alex to make different wines, probably taken quite a long time. But with Alex, he's now creating so many different sort of styles of champagne, but a focus on the Meunier grape. So 90% of the vineyards that they own are Meunier. They have a small amount of Chardonnay, a small amount of Pinot Noir. So Alex really wanted to revitalise the domain to be sort of well known for the Meunier grape. Great. So they started to make 100% Meunier cuvées. They started to make single parcel Meunier wines, Okay's Meunier, Rosé Meunier, vintage Meunier. Basically anything you can do with Meunier, Alex is trying it. So real advocate for what the Meunier grape can do, which historically and traditionally is the third lesser variety of the three main grapes. So people think Champagne and go Pinot Noir, Chardonnay, and then Meunier. Meunier traditionally added to a blend of the big houses to add that little bit of vibrancy or fruitiness or youthfulness to a blend. This is sort of, you're talking very generic concepts of Champagne here. Yeah. But traditionally, top level, that's what people would think of Meunier. Obviously, in our sector, in our niche, it's very different, but from a grand scheme of things. So this cuvée was perfect to bring along to try. That A, it's a little bit different with it being 100% Meunier, but B, it's that story and that connection to Alex as a producer, the fact that he backed me as an individual 4 years ago when he already had good export markets and was selling thousands and thousands of bottles, and I had sold to the UK before.
Yeah.
To now, I mean, we're in a very different business relationship now 4 years later in terms of the quantities that we're buying off him, but to believe in my idea to send us a couple of boxes here, there and everywhere for the first sort of year to now, to being one of our biggest sellers across the range, is a great sort of advert for, I suppose, what we've done within the business.
Yeah.
So let's have a taste.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers, mate. Enjoy your aperitif. So with this wine, you've got, obviously, like I said, 100% Meunier. So the Meunier from Alex's vineyards is organic conversion. So a lot of time spent in the vineyards, cultivating the soils, working those clay soils. So you get that real richness from the fruit. You don't necessarily get a real sharp acidity or minerality from maybe what you would envision like a Blanc de Blanc or a Chardonnay style champagne.
Sure.
So a little bit rounder on the palate.
Yeah.
Loads of texture.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm saying this is generic of what Alex's wines taste like, but yeah, so you got that real explosion of flavour on that mid palate, which for me, champagne is about that texture and that mouthfeel.
Yeah.
So you can get linear wines which are really straight and hit you at the back of your palate and go direct to your taste buds on your tongue, or you can have something like this, which is a little bit more rounder, which hits your cheeks and hits the roof of your mouth with more fruity flavours than necessarily those sort of salty mineral tones. So this is really fruit driven. In terms of the actual sort of character of the wine, you gain sort of tropical exotic notes, rich sort of red berries. I mean, the nose is so beautifully sort of, it's like seductive and opulent, and I don't like using tasting notes because I don't know how to do it. Because I'm not a trained sommelier. I haven't got any WSETs. I haven't spent years and years learning how to taste and try wine. A lot of my stuff is learnt from experience and working with people and tasting with people. So for me, and again, the palate, everyone's palate's different.
Of course.
And when I'm hosting an event this Saturday, and first thing I'll say is, you taste this wine how you want to taste it. You enjoy it however you want to enjoy it. I'm not going to tell you A, how to taste, B, how to smell, C, how to hold the glass. Like, wine is there to be enjoyed. Champagne is there to be enjoyed. I'll give you some tips and tricks from what I've learned from people in terms of how to get the most out of the wine. But for me, tasting notes is not my repertoire.
Sure.
So I go to a tasting and I'll let the sommelier or the wine buyer tell me what you're tasting.
Sure.
Because I know it's an amazing wine. I know what style of wine it is. I know how it can work commercially. I know the story. I know how you can hand sell this in a restaurant. But those real technical intricacies of tasting notes is not my repertoire. So but with this, you can easily get those more fruity characters than other styles of champagne. So the nose is stunning. So only 2 years of lees aging, so it's not spent loads of time in the bottle to get those really sort of brioche, toasty characters. It is very fruit driven style of champagne. And this is 2019 base vintage, I think it is. With some reserve wines, all stainless steel, so no oak involved in this cuvee, and so that gives it that real sort of pure expression of what his Meunier can create, which is this sort of fruit driven, a little bit umami style, very food friendly wine. This is great with sort of seafood or anything with a bit of spice. A lot of our restaurant clients would put this on a wine flight and pair it with maybe a bit of game meat with like a spicy, fruity sort of sauce or something. So very popular wine within our portfolio, and it's tasting beautifully. Probably need a little bit too warm, but
we've been talking for a while, so it's been sat there a little while.
The plan was to open it straight away.
It was.
We've just been chatting
going.
since, so that's a good sign. But again, champagne doesn't need to be drank ice cold.
No.
You know what I mean, it needs to be served at the right temperatures, and some wines and some champagnes at different temperatures to others as well. But we'll get into all these sort of nerdy bits and the intricacies throughout the channel and throughout the series. But which I can't wait to get involved in.
Yeah, 100%.
Even like glassware today, I've just chose the generic lemon champagne glass, which we use for all our blind tastes or all our sort of neutral tastes. It's a pretty neutral wine glass for us now. That's what we base ourselves on. Because you can play about with a wine glass and it changes the wine completely.
Absolutely.
But yeah, we'll get out into all those sort of nerdy bits throughout the channel. But yeah, so this is a beautiful wine that really expresses our journey from a startup business to where we are now. Our relationship with the producer. So Alex is he's a full on mate. Like he's a great guy. He'll come to London like on his own and meet like some of our clients or meet friends that have been clients and maybe not clients anymore because they've moved into new roles, or meet people without even like me being involved.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's just a top guy. He's a wine-up merchant, right? And he's a hard work. Like he's a Man City fan now because I'm a United fan and all that sort of stuff. You know what I mean? But he's that type of character. Great guy, great laugh. Love, yeah. He like for example, just been over for the harvest this year and put us up for a couple of nights and in his home and things, and just a top guy and top producer as well. So
perfect. That brings me quite nicely to where I want to kind of not wrap up. There's a little bit for us to just go through, but kind of get towards the end stanza of this episode and kind of talk about where you since that first order from Muse, how we kind of got to where you are in 2024 and like kind of stating kind of where we're at now.
Yeah, of course. I mean, obviously, we spent a lot of time talking about the past and the build up to sort of where we are now. But yeah, so Deux Six Wines, a fully fledged importing, wholesaling, distributing business in the UK we're now working nationwide.
Yeah,
we have some distribution partners as well, which is great for us in terms of widening our reach and our network. The biggest sort of exciting thing for me is the work that we're now doing in the north.
Yeah.
So being northern lad, being Manchester based, really wanted from day one to try and revitalise like Manchester's champagne scene, which 4 years ago is an outlandish statement to say I'm gonna revitalise Manchester's champagne scene. Like, who was it to think that?
Yeah, and what does that even mean?
And what does that even mean?
Yeah.
But what that means for me and what that looks like for me now is I can go to a restaurant in Manchester or I can go to a wine bar and see a champagne list that is not just got 1 or 2 grand mark options to it. So whether that's an independent, whether it's a larger establishment, a group of restaurants, whatever it might be, and that's Manchester and the outskirts as well, and heading into Liverpool and Chester and the Lakes and York and Leeds and places like that. So for me, to be able to know I can go and sit in, obviously like one of our clients is a perfect example. I can go and sit in one of our clients with Naomi, because this is where the ideas come from, and I can enjoy a meal, or I can enjoy a snack, or I can enjoy a glass of wine without having to necessarily get dressed up.
Yep.
Necessarily have to go to a 3 Michelin star restaurant.
Yeah.
Necessarily have to go down to London and go to a 5-star hotel to drink these styles of champagnes. And to be able to now do that in the north is great for me, because that was what the idea was based on.
Yeah.
Because that's where me and Naomi would go out and drink. So yeah, that's massive for us in terms of increasing our distribution up in the northwest, which is where I'm passionate about. London's always taken our business since day one.
Yep.
From our first client through to how we work now. Like 80% of our business is still in London. It's the capital of wine in the world, some people say. Do you know what I mean? So an amazing city and an amazing wine culture. So we're very, very fortunate to work with some incredible establishments and restaurants and people and sommeliers and wine buyers. So yeah, we're in a position now where we've got like a fully fledged importing, wholesaling, distribution business that is crazy when we talk about some of those stories from 3-4 years ago to where we are now in terms of having a full-time business from a hobby is is great, and in an industry that I love, that I'm passionate about, the people that I love, like the hospitality industry, the people involved. I've never been involved in a sector or an industry that are so open, inclusive, inviting. Right, we've come into it from blind and been welcomed with open arms, and maybe because we've come from it from a different aspect, and what I want to really sort of evolve how people think of champagne. I want people to look at our story of how me and Naomi got involved into champagne and be able to replicate that, or have similar ideas and have similar experiences of champagne. That it is evolving, right? And our portfolio is evolving. So we talk about Alex as like a next generation champagne maker. That's what we want to really try and push, is this new generation of champagne. So new winemakers, not necessarily young, but new ideas, innovative, terroir driven, trying new things, and not to sound like a certain politician that has just got back into post, make champagne great again.
Yeah.
I can't believe I just said it.
I'll give you a hat with that printed on.
But it doesn't. You don't have to spend £300-400 in a swanky place, and it doesn't have to be a snobby wine.
No,
right, that's not what champagne is, and that's not what champagne is anymore. Like, you go to Champagne and you sat with young people, you sat with like modern thinking people that are tasting and drinking these new cool ideas of champagne. And I want to try and recreate some of what we experience in Champagne, in Hams, in the city, in the wine bars and the bistros and the restaurants there in UK. Yeah. In the UK, which is new generation, terroir driven, smaller production, artisan style wines that are approachable. Yeah. And that's the key thing. I want everybody to experience all these different champagnes in our portfolio. When we onboard a new producer, I want people to try it. We might not have a massive allocation. We might have really limited bottles releases that we have access to. But even if I only have access to like 10 cases of a wine, I want people to try it. I don't want to sit on it for a couple of years and if people hear about it, they'll buy it. I want people to try it. Yeah. I mean, I want people to experience this stuff because it's amazing. It's what I've fallen in love with. So yeah, that's the key for us as our business. It's all about making champagne accessible, working with your 3 Michelin stars and through to your local wine merchants, and offering a real unique approach to champagne, being wine led but producer led. Yeah. I really pride our business on having the relationship with our producers, because at the end of the day, we're sort of the gatekeepers for them in one of their biggest markets. UK, one of the biggest global markets for champagne. Yeah. And we're sort of that custodian of their product and their hard work and their labour and their life in the UK market. So I feel, a real sort of sense of responsibility to A, do a good job for them, but B, tell their stories of the wine, and that relationship with our producers is so important, and getting them over for events and tastings and dinners and things is a massive part of what we do. So yeah, on this sort of next stage of our journey really is, and we've rebranded a little bit to sort of reflect that. Yeah. To be a little bit more, new gen, inclusive, sort of accessible type of thing, with some incredibly quality sort of wines.
And I think that's reflected in the businesses and the restaurants, especially that stock and take your producers' products on. You know, we'll shout out a particular restaurant that you and I are both massive fans of, and the guys who run it in another hand in Manchester, in Julian and Max. And you know, the fact that those guys they're making what I would class as some of the best food in Manchester, but 100%. Making it massively approachable in a really similar vein to how you've discussed about the producers. They're making amazing food with amazing ingredients, with amazing thought, but making it so approachable.
100%.
Where, you know, I've walked in on a weekday with my mum for lunch and had an experience that typically you wouldn't have in terms of food quality and complexity and flavours, that you wouldn't have unless you were booking those restaurants and travelling, the length of, Cartmel up into the lakes or down to London, with quality of food and the depth of flavours that you wouldn't get, or you wouldn't traditionally get. I think the Manchester food scene's massively evolved over the last 10 years, but you wouldn't get. But those guys really represent a lot of the values that you do.
Definitely, 100%. And we've worked with the guys at Another Hand now for maybe 18 months, if not longer.
Yeah.
But yeah, that philosophy of working with people that get it, that really get what experience-led, but also quality-led hospitality can be. Like you said, you can walk into there any day of the week and say hello to the guys.
Yeah.
Whether they're in service, whether they are prepping for service, whether you're eating yourself or not. And that comes down to people. It comes down to the environment. It comes down to the relationships that you build, the stories that you sell. And that is a massive part of what we're trying to do with Champagne. But the people that we work with that sort of, replicate that. And we've got so many clients that we work with that are similar to the guys over in Another Hand. And that's a massive part of our business, is working with people that just get it and that we love working with.
Yeah.
Because you just then curate amazing experiences for your guests. The guys at Another Hand are like the perfect client for us. They're Manchester based.
Yeah.
They're incredible at what they do. We've got a really good relationship. They list amazing champagnes, which is a bonus now.
Yeah.
But like you said, the Manchester food scene's evolved so much. Even in my short time of running this business, even in like the last 6 months, even in the last couple of years, like 2 years ago, I genuinely could not get into any establishment in Manchester to offer them to taste grower champagnes. I couldn't even open a sample bottle. That's hand on heart truth. Yeah, I was in a different position of the business and in terms of my knowledge and whatnot, but people just didn't get the concept. People didn't get the idea, or also people didn't think that the clientele that would be coming into their places would be interested in something different.
Yeah.
And now, 2 years later, we've got a distribution partner in Hammonds and Knutsford that we work with in the Northwest, but we've got so many different places now in and around Manchester, from wine bars through to new openings, through to small plates, through to fine dining that are working with us, that shows that there's an appetite there in Manchester, that also shows how quickly it can change, and how booming the food scene is and the hospitality scene is, and it's just an amazing sort of place to be at the moment in and around the city. I mean, we absolutely love me and Naomi going out there. Me and you obviously have our sort of working lunches and stuff, and visit different places, and that's great, and it's just a great vibe at the moment in the city. And I really can't wait to get stuck into some of the stories and the intricacies of the people running these places, from a wine point of view, from a food point of view, from a restaurateur point of view, and showcase some of the great stuff that's happening in the Northwest as well.
Amazing. I think that's a good place for us to wrap up. I'll let Cameron do the outro, so you can do it to that camera there, mate. So do the outro. Thank everyone for their time.
What's an outro? Thanks for joining my channel.
That's it. Like, subscribe, all that type of stuff.
Make sure you like, subscribe, get involved, comments, get in touch on socials, speak to us. Our business has been built on people, and the purpose of this podcast is to engage with people. It's to learn from other people's stories, give our learnings from what we've done in the last 4 years, but it's to engage and to make those connections, make those relationships. So that's been Aperitif. I hope you've enjoyed it, and we'll finish the rest of our aperitif. Cheers.
Thank you.